Let's speak to Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who joins us virtually from New York. Sherwin, hopefully the hiccups allows me to speak to you uninterrupted, right? Let's try. Sherwin, of course, the reports that the U.S. Defense Secretary or Secretary of War has responded, that reports of poor conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier have been completely misrepresented. And I wonder how true this is, but how are they responding to reports of low morale and fatigue? Because even reports of suicide attempts that are on board quite disturbing.
So Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War, is on an official visit, Bongiwe, to Panama at the moment. And let me quote you directly from what the Defense Secretary said. Quote, "We make sure every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can provide them at every single moment. Some deployments are longer than others, and I have more respect and gratitude for those sailors than anybody. What they do in those high seas, in those austere conditions, with less port calls is incredible." That is the Secretary of Defense saying that this has been misrepresented by the media to a certain extent. Yeah, I'll tell you what Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee, he wrote a letter to Pete Hegseth and the Secretary of the Navy. And let me quote you a paragraph in that letter. Quote, "There have been widespread reports of shortages of basic supplies, water contamination, plumbing issues, deteriorating mental health, deck safety concerns, and disruptions in the mail system, which have caused many care packages en route to the ship to be lost in transit for months." These are very concerning issues that are going to become a political football in Washington. And understand this. This was a ship, an aircraft carrier deployed from San Diego in November of 2025 last year to the Indo-Pacific, including patrolling the South China Sea. They then get diverted in January, Bongiwe, as the escalation is beginning to build in the Middle East, to then go and support war efforts against Iran. And so they've diverted, they've been at sea for over 250 days, and reports of fatigue, possible suicides on board are now emanating, and certainly being a big point of conversation here in the United States. Mike Levine is the Democrat who serves on the Armed Services Committee in the House of Representatives. This is what he talked about in terms of the trajectory of this conflict that, remember, was supposed to last between 3, 4, 5 weeks. We're now into 6 months and counting. Watch.
We still, almost 6 months into this thing, don't know when the mission will be accomplished. And you've got a president who has changed a dozen times, saying often that we've won. Well, if we've won, bring everybody home. And if we haven't, tell the truth about why we're still there and provide clarity to these families whose loved ones are in harm's way, and provide clarity to our men and women who are serving, who are giving their all to this country. And, it's not too much to ask to have a clear mission, to be treated, in decent conditions in the meantime, and just to have an administration that tells the truth. But I don't think that Pete Hegseth seems capable of telling the truth when the truth is inconvenient.
Just to correct myself there, Bongiwe, Mike Levine is the Democrat from California that serves on the House Appropriations Committee, not the Armed Services Committee. My apologies. And so really they're speaking to the miscommunication or the narrative out there that one day the Strait of Hormuz is going to open or the war is at an end, only for it to be prolonged. And spare a thought for those, military personnel that are deployed in this theater of conflict, and spare a thought for their families that want their safe return home.
And Sherwin, while on that, because the U.S. is also saying that it could maintain a Navy blockade of the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely, while also promising a new sanctions package against Iran next week. So what's the latest on that?
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving, Bongiwe. Hegseth, again, let me quote him in Panama. He says, "Indefinitely, the United States Navy can maintain a blockade like that because we'll rotate the ships in and out as we have and we'll continue to do." And then you have the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, saying in a Newsmax interview last night, watch this space for more announcements coming next week, because we are going to apply measures like have never been seen in the history of the economic isolation of the country. Understand that there are already severe, broad-ranging sanctions already imposed on Iran. It begs the question, what more can the United States do here economically to pressure the Iranians to come to the negotiator table and to make a deal that the United States would like to see here, particularly in terms of things we are not talking about today, which is the Iranian nuclear program. It's enriched in uranium. The focus remains on the Strait of Hormuz. The United States says it controls the strait. The Iranians say they don't. The Iranians again fired on two, we understand, vessels from the United Arab Emirates. So, and ship traffic through this very key waterway remains at all-time lows. So, yeah, you tell me who's winning the war, Bongiwe.
You know what? I can't even. I can't. What I can tell you now is that the hiccups is gone. That's all I know. That's all I know in terms of that. I think, as you say, it's the gift that keeps on giving. We're still going to be having this conversation for quite some time. But let's see then what becomes the very latest show. And appreciate your time as always. US Correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease, they bring us the very latest live from New York.